What's up guys, and welcome back to another video. Today we will be tackling What If Ash and Red Were Twins Part 4B. So as you can see, I decided to split up Part 4 into two sections. Part A that covers Ash's story, and Part B that covers Red's story. I only did this because I wanted to explain especially after Part 3 where both of the twins were at. But going forward, I'm gonna stick them to one part, so it's a part A and part B story in just one video, unless I really do need to expand on just one person's story. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoy this video. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and let's get on to the video. Meanwhile, over with Red and Brock, the Palatown native has been feeling much better. However, he's still not well enough to travel. Brock currently is in the lobby having just finished a call with Professor Oak. As he heads back to the room, he overhears two people talking about this certain place in the town. When questioned about it, one of them says it's called the Pokémon House. It's a place for orphaned and abandoned Pokemon to go to get taken care of. This greatly interests Brock as he'd like to check it out, after informing Red that the others are still in fact alive. Brock does talk with Red about wanting to go to the Pokemon house, and since Red is still bedridden and Nurse Joy is here to look after him, Red has no real problem with him leaving. So soon enough, Brock does go to check out the Pokemon house. When arriving, he is greeted by Mr. Fuji and Reina, who explain how this place had come to be. After hearing how much Mr. Fuji loved Pokemon that he set up this place, Brock asks if he can help out here, as he wants to help the poor Pokemon too, and since he's aiming to become a Pokemon breeder, his skills could be of use. While Mr. Fuji does let Brock help out, he shortly has to excuse himself as he has something to take care of. But no worries, Reina will show him the ropes. When looking around, Brock sees a bunch of previously injured Pokemon playing happily with the other volunteers. However, in the furthest backmost pen, Brock notices a young yet angry Cubone. Reina explains that this Cubone only really gets along with Mr. Fuji because of its tragic origin. She goes on to say that Team Rocket had killed its mother, as they've been trying to steal Cubone skulls as of recently. Thankfully, Mr. Fuji was able to interrupt and save this Cubone. This saddens yet angers Brock, as he always knew Team Rocket had been bad guys, but to think that they would go this far. He resolves himself to help these Pokemon and the town people in any way he can. Brock spends his entire day helping out everybody, but mainly focuses on Cubone since there's so many other volunteers helping out the other Pokemon. Plus, since he has a few ground types himself, Brock knows how to properly care for one. Although Cubone hasn't entirely warmed up to him, as it refuses to let Brock touch it or even get near it. Because of this, Brock has Geodude, Sandshrew, and Charmander come out. While Cubone is wary of them at first, by the end of the day, Cubone has warmed up to them. The following day is spent more or less the same, but Brock is able to convince Cubone to finally try some of his Pokemon food. As it sees its new friends and the other Pokemon in the house eating some, it finally gives it a taste. And to no surprise, Cubone loves Brock's food. Because of that, and Brock's Pokemon, Cubone's able to tolerate Brock being in its general vicinity. The following day, Brock, Sandshrew, and Charmander are playing with Cubone when a man walks in shouting about knowing where Mr. Fuji has gone. He says that the other day, Mr. Fuji had gone to the Pokemon Tower to talk with Team Rocket. Brock is then told that Team Rocket showed up some time ago and took over the tower. Now no one's allowed in to even pay respects for their fallen Pokemon. Brock is beyond pissed that Team Rocket's doing this, so he swears to stop Team Rocket, otherwise he can't call himself a gym leader. Suddenly, Cubone starts to bang its bone on the floor and then ultimately hits Brock's leg. This surprises and confuses everybody as they've never seen Cubone get this rowdy before. When Brock looks into its eyes, he figures out why it gets rowdy and says that he knows it wants to come along to save Mr. Fuji, but it's too dangerous for it to come. Cubone only gets angrier as it hits Brock harder, demanding it come along too. Brock sighs and asks if it'll be okay with Reina, and she says yes, as long as she can come too. Although Brock is very hesitant for both of them to come, he agrees once he hears that Mr. Fuji is like a father to her. And whether or not Brock agrees pays to take her, she would go regardless. That's why Brock agrees, because it'd be safer if she came with him rather than going alone. Brock puts Cubone on his shoulder, and as they're about to set out, one of the volunteers steps up, mentioning that the Pokemon Tower has a bunch of ghost types. So they're gonna need this, and hands them a Sylph Scope that should come in handy, as it can identify ghosts. Another volunteer hands Reina a few potions, in case they're gonna need them. When arriving at the tower, one of the grunts tells Brock to back away now, or else he'll become a ghost type himself. After all, they are a little bored here, and if he wants to die, they'll gladly help him. Cubone shows that it's clearly scared by trying to hide behind Brock. He, however, just places a hand on it, reassuring that everything will be okay. Brock demands for them to step down and turn themselves in, or else. The grunts just laugh at him as they send out their Pokemon. Brock takes a deep breath and responds by sending out his Pokemon. He shows them that the ex-Pewter City gym leader is not playing around. He ties them up before moving inside, where Brock has to battle 3 more grunts on each floor. Each battle, one after another, does start to put a strain on Brock's Pokemon. However, it is a little bit alleviated by Reina using the potions that she was given and her rolls using Life Dew. Because of the amount of battles it's been put through, Brock's Charmander evolves into a Charmeleon. While it isn't overly disobedient, Charmeleon still has a bit of a cocky attitude to it. Weirdly enough, the 6th floor is devoid of life. There aren't even any rocket grunts up here. As they approach the stairs, a ghost appears, sending everybody flying backwards. The ghost tells them to get out and leave the tower before they suffer the same fate too. Cubone seems to recognize the ghost, but is stopped from getting any closer by Sandshrew. Charmeleon and Geodude then try to attack, but none of their moves are doing anything to the ghost. This is when Brock remembers to use the Sylph Skull, which reveals the ghost to be a Marowak. More specifically, Cubone's mother, who Brock tells Sandshrew to let Cubone go. It then reunites with its mother, who gives her child one last hug before she can finally move on to the afterlife. As soon as its mother's gone, Cubone begins to cry. Brock and Reina just try their best to comfort it. However, once it's done crying, the Skull Pokemon wipes its tears, picks up its bone, and gives Brock a determined look. Brock smiles and picks it up as they carry on. Eventually, Brock arrives at the final floor, where Mr. Fuji is being held by 2 more grunts. Brock tries to reason with them to let him go, mainly due to the fact that his whole team is exhausted by now. He's not sure that they can take another battle. One of the grunts that Brock quickly comes to know as Petrol says that they aren't buying what he's selling, so let's battle for this man's fate. Brock brings out his Charmeleon and Sandshrew, but unfortunately Charmeleon doesn't stay long, as Petrol's coughing takes it out. Geodude and Onix don't fare much better, as they're also really exhausted. However, between the 3 of them, they do manage to take out the Raticate. This does unfortunately mean that Sandshrew is left to fight alone, but as Sandshrew is getting ganged up on, Cubone steps in to try to help him. Reina and Brock tell it to get back, but the little Pokemon won't listen, as it wants to fight. Since it won't listen, Brock doesn't have much of a choice but to order Sandshrew to protect Cubone. Because of this, Sandshrew takes more damage than it normally would have if it wasn't protecting Cubone. When coughing goes for Cubone using Gyro Ball, its bone begins to glow bright blue and grow larger. It then hits coughing back with its newly learned Bone Rush, causing it to bounce all over the room. The coughing ball ends up hitting Golbat, and then it narrowly misses Sandshrew, but ultimately the coughing ball ends up smashing into the wall behind Petrol. And it turns out that it sorta knocked itself out. Thanks to the hit Golbat took earlier, Sandshrew is able to defeat it by evolving and whacking the bat with Cubone's bone. For a second, they think it's over, until Petrol brings out his wheezing. He states that things are gonna get real from now on. That is until Petrol hears what sounds like police sirens in the distance. Petrol realizes that they overstayed their welcome, and while they did get the information and skulls they wanted, it's time for him to go. After a single smokescreen, him and the grunt disappear. They then free Mr. Fuji from his bindings, who is relieved to see that they are okay. When asked what Team Rocket wanted from this place, Mr. Fuji says that they were stealing skulls from Marowaks and Cubones to sell, and he's not sure why they were holding him hostage. Brock can pick up that Mr. Fuji isn't entirely being honest, but if it's something he doesn't want to talk about, Brock isn't gonna push him on it. Instead, Brock just listens to how Rina tells Mr. Fuji about their climb up and what happened between Marowak and Cubone as the police force rushes in here. The following day, Nurse Joy says that Red is healthy enough to start traveling again, and while Red wants to get going as he's been bedridden for the past who knows how long, Brock asks if they can stay here just a few more days, as he'd really like to help and learn from Mr. Fuji just for a bit longer. Thinking it over for a second, Red decides that they should stay for a few more days. Red even goes with Brock to the Pokemon house to help out and meet this Mr. Fuji. The day after that, Red decides not to go to the Pokemon house as they have enough volunteers and instead stays at the Pokemon Center. As the boy's talking to Charmeleon, Red comments that he wants to go catch a ghost type in the Pokemon Tower. However, he knows from what Brock told him, going to that place would be very disrespectful just to go catch a Pokemon. Plus, because of what happened with Team Rocket, Officer Jenny ain't gonna let him anywhere near that place. Nurse Joy overhears this and suggests for the boy to go check out a tower that the people of this town have dubbed the Tower of Terror. It used to be a home a few years ago before it was abandoned, and ever since then there's been rumors that ghost types have been seen there. And it doesn't take much, but Red decides to go check it out. It takes him quite a while to find it as the people of this town keep redirecting him to the Pokemon Tower. By the time he gets there, it's already night, as the tower is on the outskirts of the town. Him and Charmeleon debate about going inside as they're getting a bit scared, but ultimately they summon all their courage and go inside, where they immediately start getting haunted. After a few minutes of scaring him, the ghastly line revealed themselves, only for our two heroes to then get their spirits taken out of their body. And so for a few hours they canonically died. This is when he finds out that the ghosts only really want to play, and so Red decides to loosen up a bit and play with them. But once he's done playing with them, Red questions if any of them would like to come along with him on his journey to become a Pokemon Master. Unfortunately for him, none of the ghosts want to come with him, and so he has to leave the tower empty-handed. When returning to the Pokemon Center, he feels like his Pokemon are gonna need a bit of exercise. After all, they've been in their Pokeballs for quite a while. So Red goes out back to the battlefield where he sends out his Pokemon, and he notices that one of them has changed. His Eevee is now a coughing, which throws off everyone, including the coughing. As Red panics about where his Eevee could possibly be, Coughing gives the most depressed look as his trainer is nowhere to be seen. Red tells it not to worry, as he'll help him get back to his trainer, but it's gonna be a little hard, as he's not sure who it belongs to. As far as he knew, Ash and Misty didn't have one. It might belong to Leaf or Gary, as long as it doesn't belong to Team Rocket. And as if on cue, he hears someone yelling out for Coughing. When Red turns around, he sees Team Rocket's giant ass balloon, and once Coughing sees its trainer, he perks right up. James, without even thinking about it, jumps off the balloon to embrace his Coughing. Red questions if that means that they got his Eevee. As James starts to go back to his balloon, he tosses the young boy a Pokeball, saying that it wouldn't listen to them, so why would they want it? When Red opens the Pokeball, it turns out to be empty, causing Team Rocket to start laughing. Meowth calls him such a dumb twerp for actually thinking they would give back the Pokemon. They would never give up such a golden opportunity to give the boss a new Pokemon. In a burst of anger, Red tells his Pokemon to attack Team Rocket, with Nidoran being the only one that doesn't do anything. After Team Rocket is happily blasted off, Red realizes that he probably should have questioned them about where exactly they sent his Eevee. And for a few minutes, Red isn't sure what to do and where to start looking. That is until he remembers there are a few Team Rocket members currently in custody, and maybe with the help of Officer Jenny, they could figure out where his Pokemon might have gone. And so Red heads off to the nearby police station. situation. After hearing his story, Officer Jenny does decide to help and question the Team Rocket members they arrested the other day. The most she gets out of them is that no one really sends anything to the boss directly. It always gets sent somewhere else, like Celadon City. Upon hearing that Eevee might be in Celadon City, he books it to the Pokemon house, where he tells Brock everything that happened. Of course, Brock is upset at what has happened and so tells Red to go get their stuff. As Red leaves, Brock apologizes to Mr. Fuji for having to leave. However, Mr. Fuji tells the young lad to wait, as he's got something for him. Mr. Fuji decides to tell Brock the real reason he started the Pokemon house and why Team Rocket held him hostage for so long. Many years ago, long before Brock was born, Mr. Fuji was a scientist. He was hired by Team Rocket to clone the legendary Pokemon Mew and create the most powerful Pokemon in existence. Thanks to the funding and resources provided to him by Team Rocket, after many failed experiments, not only was he able to clone his daughter, but as well as create a clone of Mew. Unfortunately, neither his daughter nor the 3 other Pokemon survived very long. However, for some reason, the Mew clone was able to survive far longer than the others. After realizing that the clone was surviving far longer than the others, Team Rocket decided to pull him from the project and try to take him out. They had a Sandslash stab its claw into his chest and left him to bleed out. Fortunately for him, one of his research buddies had taken pity on him and treated his wound the best he could. Despite fear that Team Rocket might go after him as well, Blaine helped him get off New Island and seek proper medical attention. After which both of them decided to go into hiding, going their own separate ways. He doesn't know where his friend went, but Fuji moved to Lavender Town. And because of all the terrible things he did while working under Team Rocket, he opened the Pokemon house to try and repent for what he did. The young boy remains quiet, as he is unsure of how to react. Fuji then changes his tone to that of a less gloomy one, as he hands Brock a Pokeflute. The old man explains that this flute will awaken any sleeping Pokemon. Before Brock can comment on anything, Fuji reminds him that he needs to get going. Brock nods, and as he's 1 foot out the door, he feels something on his other foot. It's Cubone. He won't let go of Brock's leg, as he doesn't want him to leave. Brock tries to explain to it that he really has to leave, as there's a friend he's gotta go save. Reina tries to pry it off of him, only for it to start crying. Mr. Fuji points out that the Cubone has grown quite fond of him. Maybe he should take it with him, to which Brock questions if that's really okay. After all, it belongs to them, so he doesn't want to just take it. Fuji points out that they don't own these Pokemon. The whole point of the Pokemon house is to give abandoned and orphaned Pokemon a safe place to be. If they find a person that they really like and is able to take care of them properly, then they're more than free to go. After all, it's the happiness of the Pokemon that's important. Brock has shown himself to be more than capable of taking care of the Cubone, so if he wants, he can take a Cubone with him. Rena also agrees, and with their blessing, Brock adds Cubone to his team. Upon meeting Red outside, they make their way to Celadon City. A few days later, the duo make it to Saffron City, and because they're in kind of a hurry, they only stop by a Pokemart to refill some supplies. So after paying for their items, they leave Saffron City. Later that night, they set up camp on Route 7 where they can watch the moon rise. As Brock is finishing up making dinner, Red notices a small monkey-like Pokemon peeking from behind a nearby rock. The Pokédex claims that this Pokemon is called Mankey, a powerful fighting type. Red wants to catch it, but first he offers it half of his bread, trying to convince the monkey to join his team. The Mankey takes the bread and starts eating it atop of the rock. However, when Red asks if he'd like to join his team, the Mankey just punches Red in the face and takes his hat. Once Red gets back on his feet, he notices that not only has the Mankey ran up the tree, but it's taken his hat. The young boy tries to climb the tree, however the monkey just kicks him off of it. Unfortunately for him, the Mankey is very agile, so even Beedrill has trouble getting it back. Once Red climbs the tree and works together with his Beedrill, they're able to take the hat back. Upon climbing down, Brock questions why the hat's so important to him. Unlike Ash, who won his through a Pokemon League raffle. A few weeks before they started their journey, his father had sent them presents. Ash had gotten a jacket while Red got this hat from him. That's why it's so important to him. And just then, the Mankey throws itself at Red, only for Beedrill to step in with a poison jab. The monkey hits the floor pretty hard, and once it gets up, it realizes that it's been poisoned. Not only has it been poisoned, but this human took its new hat from him, makes Mankey so unbelievably angry that its eyes glow white, and soon enough, the glow spreads through his entire body. Mankey then becomes Primeape, and with a single Mega Kick, knocks out Beedrill. Red is quite shocked at the monkey's newfound strength, as taking out Beedrill one hit isn't an easy task. Just a moment after, Primeape sets his eyes on Red, and after he dodges a scratch, he sends out his Charmeleon. The fire type is able to counter Primeape's Mega Kick and scratches with its own Dragon Claw. However, in those brief clashes, it's still apparent that Primeape is much stronger. The fire lizard meets its end when Primeape learns to dodge the Dragon Claw. He then grabs Charmeleon's wrist and leg, raising him over his head before jumping into the air and using Seismic Toss to throw Charmeleon to the ground. Before Charmeleon can even think of getting up, Primeape comes crashing down with a Mega Kick. This is more than enough to finish off Charmeleon, which is an even bigger shock to Red as this is his starter, his strongest Pokemon. This means Red has one more Pokemon left, that being his Nidoran, and he's not even entirely sure if he would want to battle. But if worst comes to worst and it doesn't or it loses, Brock can always step in. Unfortunately, just like Red thought, Nidoran doesn't want to battle. However, he changes his mind when he hears from Red that it defeated both Charmeleon and Beedrill. Despite its fighting spirit seemingly having coming back, it still gets beaten to a pulp. Red tries to recall him, however the poison type doesn't want to. He just gives Red an angry stare that the young boy quickly understands. Nidoran then lets out its war cry as it forces itself to evolve. The newly evolved Nidorino charges at Primeape, where it shows off a new move, Drill Run, that knocks Primeape off of its feet. He goes for it again, however Primeape is able to actually stop the Drill Run by Mega Kicking Nidorino sky high. Once Nidorino gets its bearings, Red calls for another Drill Run, as the gravity will give it the momentum and power to finally defeat Primeape. As Primeape watches Nidorino come crashing down towards it, its anger reaches its boiling point. This purple and black aura appears around it, before Primeape pulls back its fist and the aura concentrates around it. Once Nidoran is within range, Primeape throws its punch. The resulting clash between them is so strong that it breaks part of the floor that's underneath Primeape, causing it to kick up the dirt around them, creating a small little dust cloud. Once the dust has gone away, Red and Brock see that both Pokemon have fainted. Red places his hand on Nidorino, thanking it for the battle before recalling it. He then turns to Primeape and for a second thinks of just leaving it be. However, if this Primeape were to be trained properly, it could become one big powerhouse. So with that, he adds Primeape onto his team. Before they can get to healing Red's team, James and Meowth show up trying to steal their Pokemon again. Red already being kind of pissed off at them for what they did to Eevee, sending him to a Team Rocket hideout, orders them to get out of the way as he reaches for a Pokeball, only to be stopped by Brock, who reminds him that his Pokemon are in no condition to battle. Red sighs, saying that he's right, and if he could get this one for him. Brock nods as he sends out Geodude and Cubone, while James sends out his Coughing and Magikarp. During this fight, the Coughing evolves into a Wheezing, and other than that, after a Mega Punch and Bone Rush combo, Team Rocket are sent packing. Once Brock finishes taking care of Red's Pokemon, they finally eat dinner and have a good night's rest, allowing them to get back on the road, and after a few short days of travel, they arrive in Celadon City. Thus, the search for Red's Eevee begins. And with that, this part comes to a close. I hope you guys really enjoyed this. I enjoyed it. I know some people are going to be mad that I didn't give Red Gengar, but I did think that Primeape was a better option for him. I hope you guys enjoyed that this kind of story was mostly Brock focused because I thought he needed some love. I don't know when I'm going to be able to do that again. And having him do the Cubone storyline, it was just perfect for him. So that's why I had him mostly the main character in this part. So like I stated in the beginning of the video, the following part will feature both Ash's and Red storyline. Unless you guys like this split video thing where I tell Ash's story in one video and then move over to Red and then go back to Ash. But if you guys don't, it's fine with me. Like I said at the beginning of the video, it's going to be just the two stories a little bit shortened in one video. And with that, remember to leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.